Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher. I'm the editorial director at Sweetwater, and this is the brand new Creation Station Rack computer. The Creation Station Rack is designed to be convenient for you to use whether you're permanently mounting it in the studio or you're taking it on the road in a rack for mobile recording purposes. It provides a tremendous amount of power from its Intel Core 2 quad processor, dual internal hard drives, and 4 gigabytes of memory. With many other computers, you'll find you need to add a second hard drive, upgrade the RAM, add additional components in order to make the machine suitable for recording audio or producing music. With a Creation Station Rack, everything you need is provided stock. You unbox the machine, install it in your studio, and you're making music or recording audio. The big question with a music computer is how much power does it really provide? What we did is we took this computer into Sweetwater Labs for 2 weeks and we put it through a long battery of tests to find out exactly what it's capable of doing. Two obvious things that we wanted to test was the amount of tracks that we could record and the amount of tracks that we could play back. For track recording, we added 4 Motu 24I/O interfaces to the Creation Station Rack. We were able to achieve a full 96 tracks of recording with this machine, and we let those recordings run for 45 minutes to an hour to ensure that they were completely stable for long-term recording sessions. When we switched to track playback, at 96 kHz 24-bit resolution, we achieved 120 mono tracks. When we switched to 44.1 kHz 24-bit resolution, we achieved 130 stereo tracks. So there's plenty of track count available whether you're recording or playing back audio for your sessions. In a typical mixdown situation, you're going to be using a lot of instances of EQ, you're going to be using a lot of instances of compression, and you're probably going to have multiple reverbs running at the same time. All of that processing puts a lot of demand on the CPU and the computer. With the Creation Station Rack, we ran 43 stereo audio tracks at 44.1 kHz resolution. We were able to achieve 215 bands of EQ and 215 bands of multiband compression simultaneously. In addition, we added 5 instances of Cakewalk's Perfect Space Convolution Reverb, and it was no problem at all for the computer to handle that load. With that kind of performance during a mixdown, we were curious just how far we could push the machine with convolution reverbs. Convolution reverb is extremely demanding on a processor. And with Cakewalk's Perfect Space Convolution Reverb on the Creation Station Rack, we achieved 50 instances of the plug-in running simultaneously. When we switched over to testing virtual instruments with the Creation Station Rack, we used Synthogy Ivory as our test plugin. Synthogy Ivory is a virtual piano. We loaded 6 instances, each of which had a completely independent piano fully loaded into RAM during playback. When we did that, the CPU usage peaked out at only 38%. To push things even further, we loaded up FXpansion's BFD 2.0, which is a sampled drum playback plugin. We also added 4 more instances of Ivory to the mix just to see how far we could push things. And in that case, the CPU usage topped out at just 43%. In the real world, none of us are going to use that kind of track count. We're probably not going to run that many plugins, and we may not be pushing our virtual instruments that hard, but it's sure nice to know the Creation Station Rack has plenty of power available no matter how big your session gets. We designed the Creation Station Rack, and in fact the whole Creation Station series, right here at Sweetwater, so we know these machines inside and out. They're manufactured here on site, and the tech support we're able to provide for them is literally second to none. The Creation Station Rack is ideal for project studios, professional recording and production studios, and with its rack form factor, it's ideal to take on the road in a rack if you're going to be doing mobile recording or for playback of instruments and processing on stage. For full details on the Creation Station Rack, visit the Creation Station microsite at sweetwater.com. There's a white paper available there that details all the tests we did, the conditions the tests were held under, and the results that we achieved. If you have further questions, contact your Sweetwater sales engineer. They'll be happy to tell you everything you need to know about the Creation Station Rack.